Imagine an immersive theme park that transports you to the world of the North Pole. A park that combines elements of your favorite holiday movies into one park. A park in which you can meet Santa, fly on his sleigh, discover a beast that guards a mystical mountain, and come face to face with the Krampus all in one day. This is North Pole Park. Good day, everyone. My name is Parker, and welcome to day number 9 here on the 12 Days of Vlogmas on Adventures with Parker. Now, the park I just described doesn't exist. Well, it does, but only in my imagination. But it sounds cool, right? So today, I'm going to share my concepts for a North Pole theme park. We are going to make the park realistic, but with an unlimited budget, so I don't think this park will be feasible in real life, but this is actually what Imagineers do when they come up with parks and attractions. They come up with the most elaborate and detailed concept that they can, and then they scale it back over time until it becomes something that can actually be built. Obviously, we don't need to worry about that, so we can be as imaginative and creative as possible here. Anyways, I'm really excited to share these ideas, so without any further ado, let the Vlogmas adventures begin. And welcome to North Pole Park. Have a jolly day. So before we actually talk about the park's attractions and all that, we kind of gotta do a bit of setup here. So like I said, I want this park to be super immersive. So as long as you're inside the park's boundaries, you are in the North Pole and nothing else exists. So essentially, the main bulk of the park is on this island in the middle of the lagoon, which is meant to represent the Arctic Ocean. And then surrounding this lagoon are landscaping and facades that are made to look like glaciers and mountains and all that. So everywhere you look, all you can see is the North Pole. So how exactly do you get from our world to a place that's thousands of miles away?
I traveled through the 7 levels of the candy cane forest, past the sea of swirly, twirly gumdrops, and then I walked through the Lincoln Tunnel.
So of course, when you arrive to the park, you park your car in the parking lot, and then you head over to this tunnel, which is made to look like the Lincoln Tunnel, and you travel through that. And as you're walking through this tunnel, there'll be a couple lights, nothing too crazy. Like, they'll just give off the idea that you are being transported and that this tunnel is magical. When you come out to the other side, you end up in Northport. Now, this is a rundown looking port town. This is the last civilized place in the Arctic. This is as far north as you can go. There's nothing beyond this point, except for the North Pole, of course. This is where you buy tickets, and there's a couple small shops, like there's gonna be a place to grab coffee and maybe a small souvenir shop, but nothing as elaborate as Universal City Walk. Like I said, this is essentially your ticket and transportation area. Now, to actually get to the island in the center of the lagoon, you board a boat, and obviously that takes you through the sea of swirly gumdrops, and when you get onto the island, you arrive at the North Pole docks. Now, this area, you're on the island now, and this is where you can rent lockers and go through security, and this is basically where the park entrance is. Think of it like if you went to another country by boat, this will kind of be like your customs area. Anyways, once you're through all that, you enter a small winding path that takes you through the candy cane forest, and finally you arrive at this big, beautiful, ornate gateway that welcomes you officially into the North Pole. The first land that you encounter is Santa Claus Lane. This is basically the main street of the park, and the whole style of it is kind of made to look like an old-fashioned Victorian Christmas, if that makes sense. Yeah, it kind of just has that old English style to it, but it's very warm, very inviting. There's snow falling from the rooftops. There's little snowmans peeking out from the windows and from on top of roofs. which by the way will be part of a park-wide snowman scavenger hunt. And yeah, this whole street will be lined with different shops and restaurants. For example, the Perfect Gift Emporium, which is the park's flagship gift shop, the Merry Elf Tavern, which is one of the North Pole's top-rated bars, and the North Pole Confectionery, which is where you can buy some sweets and baked goods. Now, not everything is merry and bright in Santa Claus Lane. If you turn down one of the alleys, things look dark and gray and cold. Windows are boarded up. No one is singing. Think of Nocturne Alley over at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. You know, Diagon Alley is this magical, fun place, but Nocturne Alley is, well, it's indoors, first of all. It's not outdoors like the rest of the area, but it's dark and it's ominous. And this is the entrance to A Christmas Carol, the ride. This will be a dark ride that essentially tells the story of A Christmas Carol. For the most part, it will follow the original Charles Dickens version, but it'll also take a lot of cues from the motion capture version by Disney that stars Jim Carrey. But yeah, this will essentially be a trackless dark ride that uses a combination of sets, animatronics, peppers ghost effects, and screens to tell the story that we all know and love. Of course, I want this ride to not be afraid to be dark. Like, I want this ride to be the spooky ride at the park. And of course, the finale, where the Ghost of Christmas Future kind of shows Scrooge his death and throws him down into the grave, I want that to be like a simulated drop, kind of like you have on Spider-Man the Ride. Or even I could do a real drop like Rise of the Resistance. We have an unlimited budget here. We can do whatever we want. But yeah, it'll be a thrilling, spooky ride, and yeah, it's just good spooky Christmas vibes. Anyways, moving on from Santa Claus Lane, we'll pass under some trestles heading over top of you. Of course, those train tracks belong to the Polar Express, which is a miniature train ride that goes all the way around the park and has a couple different stops along the way. Now, I'm not sure if I want this ride to have like animatronics and dioramas along the way, kind of like the Walt Disney World Railroad, or if I want it to be more screen-based like the Hogwarts Express. Comment down below and let me know. But yeah, it'll be a fun little train ride either way. Anyways, this next land is Jingle Bell Square. This is the town center of the North Pole. There's this grand carousel when you first walk into the land, and of course it's Christmas themed. That has reindeer that you can ride and sleds in place of chariots, and it plays Christmas songs and Christmas carols using the carousel organ. It's very cute and very magical, but also very regal and grand. In the center of the square, obviously, you can find a giant Christmas tree. I'm talking 50, 60, even 70 feet tall. It's the North Pole. Of course, the Christmas tree is going to be huge. And obviously, there's going to be a tree lighting ceremony here every night. This is also the land where you can find the North Pole, a giant observation tower that overlooks the park. It's decked out in lights. It has a giant star on top. It's the North Pole Park. Obviously, we got to have the physical North Pole. Some of the other attractions in this area include some shops and restaurants, including Mrs. Claus's Bakery and Dasher's Diner. And the last major attraction of this land, it's, well, it's more like a land within itself. Think like an Epcot pavilion, but that is Santa's workshop. Of course, we can't forget about that. This building is kind of a combination of fantasy and steampunk styles. If you can kind of imagine what the combination of those two things would look like in your head, that's what I'm picturing for Santa's workshop. So smokestacks coming out the top, blowing out different colored smoke, a giant windmill attached to the roof of the workshop, and it just looks very whimsical. Anyways, there will be several attractions located within the workshop. For the most part, the workshop is basically a big giant walkthrough attraction, so you can go around and you can see Santa's office, Santa's naughty and nice list, which you can check to see if you're naughty or nice. You can see the workshop. There'll be animatronic elves working on toys. There'll be some funhouse elements scattered throughout, so slides and nets and ball pits and just a whole bunch of things you can interact with. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, when you're in the park, you get a bracelet that is called a spirit band. And this bracelet, apart from being the thing that allows you entry into the park and something that you can pay for everything, it'll allow you to interact with different elements around the park, especially within the workshop, so you can tap and make things move and hear sound effects and all that good stuff. Additionally, Santa's workshop is where you can actually meet Santa Claus in his throne room. I mean, he's not really a king, but you get it. He has a special chair where he meets children. In another room, you will find story time with Mrs. Claus. There'll be a fireplace lit and everyone will sit on the ground, and Mrs. Claus will come in and read everyone a Christmas story. There'll be a whole bunch of different stories to choose from, like Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, The Little Drummer Boy, just any classic Christmas story you can think of, Mrs. Claus will read it to you. But of course, there's audience participation. There's props and there's different times throughout the stories where the audience might have to say something. So if it's Frosty the Snowman, maybe every time Mrs. Claus says Frosty, everyone in the audience has to go, the Snowman, or like just something really fun like that. Basically think Belle's Enchanted Tales, but with Mrs. Claus instead of Belle. And of course, the main attraction in this land, and really in the park in general, is Santa's Super Sleigh. Now, the queue for this ride takes you through the North Pole's development and tech area. So here you can see elves working and testing new concepts. You can use your band to play with some interactive things and, you know, test their creations out. But essentially, eventually you find out that the elves have been working on new technology that will allow the sleigh to fly without the use of reindeer, and you have been invited to the very first test flight.
That sounds safe.
From there, you make your way up to the boarding platform, and of course, along the way, you pass Santa's sack, and you see the presents falling from a chute into it. And yeah, you make it to the station, and basically the coaster trains are made to look like modernized versions of Santa's sleigh. So, you're in the sleigh, you inch out onto this elevated runway. This is kind of like the runway where Santa's sleigh takes off from. This countdown begins, and I kind of picture these little reindeer-looking things on the side, and when the countdown is over, the nose on the end flashes red, and you take off, you launch, you're going. And for the rest of this, I would rather show than tell. So I made a prototype up in Planet Coaster. So yeah, it'll also kind of give you a bit of a general idea what I picture for the park. So enjoy this next clip. That sounds fun. I'm glad we made it okay. Now, a few things that I couldn't do in Planet Coaster and some things that I haven't built yet. When you're kind of flying near the workshop, behind there, you'll find some little house facades that are made to look like Santa's like training camp. And also, before you go over that last big airtime hill over the loop, I kind of wanted to go up, but then roll back as if your sled is losing power. Then when you're in that tunnel, the elves have to reboot the sleigh remotely, and that's when you finally get that big boost to go over. It's the same concept that Full Throttle uses. But yeah, that is that ride. Now, you may have noticed this giant mountain in the background of that video. It kind of looks like a cross between the Matterhorn and Mount Crumpet. Well, this, my friends, is Mount Mary. Now, there's two different sections to this mountain. The first is a little town at the base of the mountain. This is where you can find an Omnimover ride called the Silver and Gold Mine. It's basically a slow-moving ride, and you see some rainbow jewels and some glittering just gemstones within the mines of the caverns at the base of the mountain. And along the way, you see animatronics of Bumble, the Abominable Snowman, and Yukon Cornelius, and they get up to some antiques along the way. There's a couple gags, of course, but it's just a fun, slow-moving family attraction. From that base village, you can take a chairlift up to another little mini village that's kind of situated halfway up the mountain. Here, it's kind of just all made to look like an alpine village, and you can find some novelty stores like a cuckoo clock store and a specialty hot chocolate restaurant. But really, the main reason why you came up here is to experience the Guardian of Merry Mountain. Now, this is a mine train coaster that takes you all throughout these different caverns and tunnels throughout the mountain, and essentially you're trying to find this elusive beast who is said to guard the mountain. No one knows what it looks like, but you aim to find out. Of course, the climax of the ride has you coming face to face with this beast. It's this huge ice dragon, and you kind of have a bit of a face-off with it. And the ride ends with a drop track. Basically, I just ripped off Expedition Everest and Wonder Mountain's Guardian. Oops, I didn't mean to. I swear that was completely coincidental. But yeah, I was inspired there, I guess. That's so funny. Now, the remainder of the park is split into 4 themed realms. Starting off with the realm of sweets. Now, as the name suggests, this is basically a candy land. All of the buildings here are made out of gingerbread and candy, and you can find rides like the teacup ride, which is rethemed to hot chocolate, which I have decided to call Loco Hot Cocoa. And I haven't really fully thought out this area, but I also want a couple other flat rides that have names that represent flavors, so like sweet, sour, spicy. There'll just be some fun flat rides there. Now, the e-ticket attraction of this land is Candy Chaos. Now, this is a spinning dark ride, I guess kind of like Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin, but basically you're going through the big factory in the North Pole that makes all the candy. So if you receive candy in your stocking on Christmas morning, this is where it's made and this is where it comes from. So you're kind of given a tour of the factory, and your job is to use your blaster to collect ingredients. And yeah, it's basically a fun little dark ride that gives you a tour of the candy factory. And you can't have a candy land without a candy shop, so the candy factory ride empties out into this huge gift shop with basically every different kind of candy you can imagine. If you have a sweet tooth, this will be the place to go. The next realm is the realm of toys. Here you can find some oversized toys, basically Toy Story Land, but without the IP branding. Some of the main attractions here include a small children's coaster called Toy Dragon, with the train looking like a toy dragon, of course. And I also want a little shop where you can adopt misfit toys. You remember the island of misfit toys from the 60s claymation Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movie? Yeah, basically you can go in and you can adopt all these cute little misshapen and mismatched toys, and you can take one home and give them a home. Also here you can meet King Moonracer, you know, the big Lion King. You can enter his throne room and you can speak with him and have some cool character interactions there. Oh, also jumping back to the last land, the realm of sweets, you can meet some gingerbread characters there. Just thought I'd mention that. The next land is the realm of ice bears. As the name suggests, this is kind of like a land ruled by polar bears. So, assuming that we can build a habitat that's humane and big enough for them, you can view real polar bears here. But basically, the main attraction here is a water coaster called King Svalbard's Revenge. I was inspired by the Ice Bear Fortress in the Golden Compass for this ride, if you remember that. So yeah, the ride takes you through the Palace of the Ice Bears, and the story basically tells of how the King Polar Bear wants to subvert his power over the other polar bears, and the other polar bears have to fight back, and along the way there's drops and twists and splashes, and it's this big, epic polar bear battle. Okay, just watch the Golden Compass, you'll get what I mean. Oh, one more thing for this area is a little shop where you can adopt little polar bear cub plushies and penguin plushies, and you can bring home polar bear and penguin friends. Now the last realm in the North Pole actually is on an island of its own, so you don't need to take a boat or anything to it, it's just connected by a bridge, but it is separated from the mainland of the rest of the park, and that is the Dark Realm. These are where the evil legends of Christmas dwell. The island is basically covered in this thick forest of dead trees, and here you can find mostly thrill coasters. So the first one is Kalupalik, which is a dive coaster themed after the Inuit legend of the Kalupalik, which is basically a monster that steals children and drags them to the bottom of the ocean if they don't behave. So essentially what I picture is a dive coaster that's not too tall, like we're not talking about the next Yukon Striker here, but more like Crake at Wallaby, Belgium. Is that where that park is located? But it's just a short vertical drop, but you dive into this ice hole, and it just does your classic dive coaster stuff, but all throughout you're basically evading the grasp of the Kalupalik. The other major coaster here is Krampus, and as the name suggests, it's themed to the Krampus, which is the German folktale of what's essentially the anti-Santa. There's a great horror movie about it too. And I kind of picture a RMC coaster for this actually. Again, nothing huge, something small but very twisted and very integrated into the forest, and it just incorporates different theming elements of the Krampus. Also, I know this isn't normally done on RMC coasters, but this is my park, I can do whatever I want. I want the beginning of the ride to have some show scenes that involve an animatronic Krampus, but of course afterwards you can do a meet and greet with him with a Krampus walk around character. Now there's one last land of the park, it kind of stands on its own, and that is Holiday Hollow, and it's basically a celebration of all the winter holidays that are celebrated around this time of year. So there will be like a Bethlehem Live, like a live nativity scene kind of thing where you can meet like the shepherds and the Three Kings. I mean, that'll also kind of tie in with Three Kings Day, and you can go see the stable, and there'll be live animals, like kind of like a petting zoo. There'll be a little area telling the story of Hanukkah. There'll be a giant menorah, and when it's actually Hanukkah, that'll be lit on all 8 days. There'll be a little section for Diwali, a section for Kwanzaa, a section for Yule. Basically what I want is just interactive areas where you can come and learn about the holidays and also take part in some of the traditions. So for example, the Yule area, there will be a Yule campfire. For Hanukkah, I already mentioned the menorah thing, but maybe you'll eat some Hanukkah food and play with dreidels, and yeah, it'll just be a fun little educational but fun interactive kind of area. And that, my friends, is North Pole Park. Comment down below, tell me what kind of attractions you would like to see in a North Pole Park, and let me know if you would want to visit this park if it were real. I know, I sure would. With that, be sure to subscribe for more Vlogmas and theme park content, and follow me over on social media at ADV Parker. Merry Christmas, everyone. happy Vlogmas, happy holidays, and always remember that the adventures are calling. See ya!